All four of the Gospels name the same mysterious figure that acts as a key part of the resurrection story. He went on to become a much-loved saint and a legend of folklore. It's time to introduce Saint Joseph of Arimathea. All four of the Gospel accounts in the Bible mention a man named Joseph from a city named Arimathea, and we are told that he was a secret follower of Christ. We are told that he has invested in a new tomb for himself when he dies, but that he gives up this tomb for Jesus Christ after the crucifixion. Jesus is laid to rest in this tomb, and it is from this tomb that Jesus resurrects from the dead. He is referred to in many Orthodox hymns as the noble Joseph. He is clearly a much loved and important figure, and the stories of him beyond the Bible back that up. The full tale of St. Joseph of Arimathea is a mix of history and of legends. But whatever happened to St. Joseph in his life, whether history or legend, nothing would ever match what happened in the Gospels. This was the man who provided the tomb for the Saviour, and he would have cherished that memory and that event for the rest of his life. Today, scholars are not certain where the city of Arimathea was, and they're not sure what Arimathea was known as to non-Jewish historians. What's clear from the texts in the Gospels is that the name Joseph of Arimathea meant something to everyone who heard the name. He was clearly a famous person to the listeners of those Gospels. He is recorded as being a very rich man, and St. Jerome makes note that this recording of him as a rich man isn't to brag about his status, but rather in order to show why he was able to obtain Jesus' body from Pilate. For the poor and obscure did not have the right to approach Pilate, the representative of Roman power, and obtain the body of the crucified. This was an incredibly bold move by Joseph, and he risked everything in doing it. St. John Chrysostom writes very warmly of St. Joseph and of his courage, as well as pointing out some of the reason why it was important that Jesus was laid in a new tomb. This was Joseph of Arimathea, who had been hiding his discipleship up to this time. Now, however, he had become very bold after the death of Christ. Joseph was not an obscure person. He was highly visible, a member of the council, and highly distinguished. From this it becomes clear that he was a man of special courage, for he exposed himself to death, taking upon him the enmity of all by his affection for Jesus. He not only dared to ask for the body, but he did not desist until he obtained it. He did more than receive it and bury it in a splendid manner. He even laid it in his own new tomb. Joseph thereby showed both his love and his courage. This did not occur randomly or without purpose. It occurred so that there should not be any unsupported suspicion that one had risen instead of another. The stories of St. Joseph of Arimathea continue on from the day of the resurrection. The tomb has been broken open, the guards have fled, and they've been paid to lie about the disciples stealing the body. The Pharisees are confused, there is an uproar in Jerusalem, and in that confusion and in all of those things going on, they arrest the owner of the tomb. He's the one who put the body there, and now he is in prison because the man in his tomb is missing. So this must have been a very confusing time for Joseph, because he was burying the body of someone he loved, and now he's in prison wondering what's happened. And he's missing some of the events that are happening out there, the journey to Emmaus and Jesus appearing in different rooms. But Jesus also visits Joseph of Arimathea there in his cell. And you can only imagine what kind of conversation that must have been. Thank you for the tomb, I'm sorry I broke it. It's spectacular and a wonderful beginning to the continued ministry of Joseph. Once they realize that keeping the owner of a tomb in prison isn't really useful, Joseph of Arimathea is freed. According to tradition, Joseph and several other Christians decide to take the gospel as far as possible in the world. It is said that Joseph of Arimathea's wealth came from the tin mines of Britain, and so he and several friends travelled back to this area that he knew so well to preach the gospel there. While living there, he had made friends with Romans, Jews, and the local pagans, and he went there to meet the local pagans on a hill above Glastonbury. There, while on the hill, while talking about Christ's crucifixion and his resurrection, Joseph planted his staff into the ground, where it blossomed. Flowers bloomed from a stick, and a hawthorn tree grew on that spot, and for centuries this hawthorn tree was a place of pilgrimage known throughout Britain. This tree was known to miraculously bloom on 2 days every single year, Easter Sunday and Christmas Day. The tree itself went on to survive for centuries and was known throughout the entire country. Then, after the dissolution of the monasteries, the rise of Puritanism, and the English Civil War, the tree was cut down. It was seen as a relic of Catholicism and of Christmas, both things which were illegal at the time. The tree was destroyed. And so ended the miraculous story of that blooming on 2 days every single year. However, in a beautiful moment amidst that tragedy of the loss of the tree was the fact that many of the people of Glastonbury and the surrounding areas had taken grafts from the tree and planted them in their own properties all over the area. And to this day, the Glastonbury thorn is a unique species of hawthorn to that part of England. And unlike any other species of hawthorn, it blooms twice a year, in spring and in winter. A branch from this tree is sent to the reigning monarch every year at Christmas as a gift. St. Joseph eventually died there in his beloved Britain and was buried probably in Glastonbury. His tomb, like many other treasures of the ancient Christian world of Britain, were lost after the waves of iconoclasm and the English Civil War. But there is so much more to the legend of St. Joseph of Arimathea than we could possibly cover in a single episode, and whether true or purely legend or myth is irrelevant, the stories are worth the hearing. All of the places that you've heard of in the legends of King Arthur, places like Camelot for instance, these were all in the area that Joseph frequented. And Joseph of Arimathea is an inextricable part of the King Arthur legend. Some legends say that Joseph of Arimathea was the direct ancestor of King Arthur himself, that King Arthur's dream of Avalon as this beautiful Christian nation is the Christian message, the idea of dedicating ourselves and everything to Christ. According to some legends, it is Joseph of Arimathea that brings the Holy Grail to Britain that becomes the subject of so much legends and stories. And according to some stories, Joseph of Arimathea owned the room in which Jesus and his disciples celebrated the Last Supper, and that Joseph, after leaving Jerusalem and moving permanently to Britain, took all his furniture with him, including the table at which Jesus and the apostles sat, and this table formed the basis for the Round Table of Camelot. Some stories go even further and say that Joseph of Arimathea was an uncle of Jesus himself, and even that Jesus as an infant travelled with his uncle to the tin mines of Britain and saw Britain. There are stories of what happened when those feet in ancient times walked upon England's mountains green. This legend forms the basis of William Blake's famous poem Jerusalem, which was turned into a song, and you will still hear it chanted by English fans at football and cricket matches around the world. St. Joseph of Arimathea continues to be remembered and loved as a saint by the Church. St. Epiphanius writes beautifully about St. Joseph of Arimathea, and we're only going to quote a short part of it. A mortal went in before a mortal, asking to receive God. There came a rich man named Joseph. He was rich indeed, because he was accounted worthy to carry off the priceless pearl. How would that man not be rich who acquired the life and salvation of the world? How should Joseph not be rich, who received a gift of him that sustains and rules all things? We are basically being invited to know that we can be as rich as St. Joseph of Arimathea. St. Theophylact writes that there is even more in which we can copy St. Joseph. Joseph means increase, and Arimathea means taking hold of that. Let us be like Joseph, always increasing in virtue and taking hold of that which is truly good. Let us also take the body of Jesus through Holy Communion and place it in a tomb hewn out of a rock, that is, place it within a soul which always remembers God and does not forget him. And let that soul be hewn from a rock, that is, from Christ, who is the rock on which we are established. Let us wrap the body of Jesus in the linen, that is, let us receive it within a pure body. For the body is the linen and the garment of the soul, and we must wrap it and enfold it within ourselves. Concluding this episode on St. Joseph of Arimathea, who planted a hawthorn tree in Britain, we are actually accompanying it with hawthorn tea. And I'm normally not a big fan of the taste of hawthorn, but we've added a lot of honey to it, and it's really nice and warming. Thank you for sharing on this adventurous story. I've wanted to tell it for absolutely ages, so I'm glad we finally made this episode.